I actually have a marketing story. I have a marketing story to share with you guys today, and I'm going to try and make this quick, but I think this is a really important story, and I wanted to take the time to tell it to you. And it involves a purchase that I made recently for our adventure van that we're rigging out for road trips and photography and all that kind of stuff. But the lessons and the things that I saw from this story were very important, I think, for the way that we all market, for the way that we all interact with customers. Because if you are interacting with customers, if you're trying to build a business, the way your customers feel about you, the way your customers walk away from you, and what your customers tell other people about you is incredibly important. And so today's story is about taking that concept of what are customers feeling about you. And you need to ask yourself this question. I need to ask myself this question. What are customers feeling when they walk away, right? If I'm doing a portrait session or if I'm selling photo tools or workshops, it's very important to me that people are satisfied. I take a lot of pride in the products we make here at Seim FX. And so we really work hard to make the customers happy. But sometimes things go wrong, right? Sometimes it's just not the right fit for someone. Other times we make a mistake. We don't respond quickly enough and the customer gets frustrated. It happens, right? We all deal with this. The story I want to tell you first, and then we'll make this parallel real quick. So just a quick story. I bought a Tepui rooftop tent. Okay, and so I did a lot of research, and we have an RV, but I wanted to put one of these rooftop tents on top of our adventure van that we're rigging out so that I had just kind of an extra bed up there, and if I wanted to go and do a day trip without the RV, right, our cool van would be all set up for it. So I'm researching these rooftop tents, and if you haven't seen them, they're really cool. They sit on top of your roof rack, and they fold out, and a ladder comes down, and you have this tent. So I do a lot of research, and a lot of people seem to like this Tepui tent made in California, and it's cool, and it has different patterns, and you can change the canopies on it and stuff, and it seems like it's a pretty good brand. So I spent some time researching. I talked to them on the phone multiple times about their tents. I asked questions. You know, it's going to be way up on my van, and my van's pretty tall, so I wanted to be able to make sure I could crawl up there. At first, I was thinking I might take photos from it. Later, I ended up adding also a roof platform to the van, which I'll show you one of these days. But the bottom line is I'm asking questions about things like, well, can I stand on this? And is that okay? And yeah, that's okay. And there's pictures on Tepui's Facebook page and stuff where they show people standing on top of this thing when it's closed. And so there's an indication that it's pretty durable. And after my homework, I'm like, okay, I want this Tepui. Now, this is roughly a $1,500 tent, okay? And so rooftop tents can vary anywhere between, $800 and thousands of dollars. But this is a fairly significant investment that I'm putting on my vehicle. So I get the tent and we set it all up and put it on the van, and it's really cool. It looks good. The tent has a lot of positives about it. Okay, but the problem is that I get on the tent and I'm putting the cover on it and I'm getting on it, right? Like I had talked about, like I had seen in photos. And the next day I go and open the tent and there's dents all over the top of the tent. All right, and so I'm like, well, and it was really bothering me, right? The tent still works, but I'm thinking, this is a brand new tent. It's almost like if you go buy a brand new car and the fenders fall off. The car still works, but you're kind of unhappy about the fenders. So I send Tepui photos of my tent, which is all dented up. Now, Tepui also makes a rugged version of the tent, and I had actually got on the phone, because I'm very much into product research. I had actually called Tepui to ask them about the ruggedized, and based on their information, there was no indication that I would need a ruggedized for it to hold up for the way I was using it. So I sent Tepui these photos, and Tepui's curt response is, oh, well, that's normal. And I'm like, that's normal. My tent has dents all over it. And so I'm frustrated. I send an email to the company, the dealer I bought it from, which was Rack Outfitters, okay? And they're like, oh yeah, that's normal. And so I'm getting kind of frustrated, so I go find an adventure forum. And this is where things devolve very quickly. And I post on this adventure forum about my struggles. I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to post it here. Maybe I'll get their attention and I'll get some other input from people on what to do and how to get help with this. And so I post on this forum. Well, as it turns out, this forum, Tepui, apparently is like a sponsor of this site. So it's not that they're that they're controlling the conversation or anything like that on there. It's just that there's a lot of people that are fans of this tent brand. And so ultimately what happens is I end up getting flamed and called names, and eventually people are digging into my personal life on this forum because I'm a human rights activist, and they're calling me names, and eventually it got so bad that this thread gets closed down. And all through this chaos, this thread is like the top thread on this forum, and I'm refusing to relent, right? I'm a pretty opinionated guy, and I'm like, no, this is not okay. And so I'm making all these parallels. And people start getting to the point where they're just defending the company. And when the company says, no, we're not going to do anything about this, people are actually on the forum celebrating the fact that Tepui has refused to take care of this warranty claim. All right, and so I'm thinking, well, this isn't good. Now, I'm going to do more of a review on the tent itself over on my channel. And I'm going to show the tent, and I'm going to show the dents, and I'm also going to talk about the positives of the tent and rooftop tents in general, because they're a very interesting thing. But as I watched this all unfold, I was explaining to people, like, Tepui loses no matter what here, right? Tepui's got some people on here defending them on a forum, let's say, or they got people saying this is normal, or they're telling me normal. But you know what? You lose. If you're the business and you drive that customer away and you just say, oh, it's whatever, no big deal, you're on your own, right? All Tepui had to do was try to make the customer happy. Now, there's a moral to this story, is that in the end, Tepui has put me in a position where I will probably never buy from them again. But more importantly now, this thread and this story is going to be forever out there in terms of, I bought a Tepui rooftop tent, which immediately dented on the first day of use, and they said, that's normal, right? And so what am I thinking in my mind? I'm thinking Tepui tents, the ones that dent. And so there's a complete failure of the fundamentals of marketing here, because maybe Tepui is like, well, this guy should have known that it would do that, right? I mean, we've seen it do that, except for that's not how they sold me the tent. That's not what the conversations we had. Nobody told me if I didn't buy a rugged version of the tent that cost $600 more that the tent would get all dented, because we had conversations about this, and the tent is made to hold human beings. But in the end, that's not really the point. In the end, maybe I was ignorant about how rooftop tents work. Now, personally, I think that this is a major design flaw. I think that if you have a product that is being damaged in the first day of use because a person uses it the way you show it being used, or the way you imply it can be used, that the fault is with you and you need to make a better product. It's like when I make actions and we make products here in the studio like Lumist. I watch the questions that come in. Lumist is a perfect example of this, and people are using Lumist all over the world, and it's doing things with luminosity masking and stuff like that that behind the scenes are very complicated, and yet we've tried to make it simple. So as support emails are coming in, people are saying, I'm having this problem or I'm having that problem. The number one thing we need to do is we help those people. Occasionally that even leads to us refunding the product, because we say, even though this is software, we guarantee it. And some people eventually just say, look, I'm not ready for Photoshop. I'm not ready to deal with this. And so can I just get a refund, right? Can I exchange it for another product? Now, when you're a business owner, doing things that cost money or giving money back is not a fun thing. Oftentimes, as would have been the case with Tepui, they could have made the customer happy by trying to resolve it. They might have said, well, hey, if you take it to this store, we'll exchange it for a rugged one, right? Maybe I would have even paid the difference, because had I known that the standard version was not going to hold up to such basic use, I would have bought the other one. But the company miscommunicated from the beginning. But worst of all, when the customer was unhappy, the company essentially just said, you're on your own, curtly responding that we're not going to do anything about it. As soon as you do that, you failed in the customer service loop. Now, this doesn't mean we should let customers take advantage of us, or say, oh, I want to keep the product, but give me all my money back because I'm not happy, right? But the principle of the customer is always right, is the concept that you always have to bend over backwards for the customer to try and make them happy, even if it costs you something, even if you don't like it. Guys, there's many times I've had to give refunds where I wasn't very, very happy about it. There's times where it's pretty clear people are taking advantage of me, and I'm asking them questions, and I'm like, this person is just trying to get something for free. But at the end, we pretty much always just say, all right, we're gonna do what you need done. And it can be frustrating sometimes. Now, in this case, I was certainly not trying to take advantage of the company, but we didn't even get to that point because the company flat refused to back up their product in the way that I expected the product was going to perform. And so not only did they lose a customer, they lost the battle. There's might be a perception as business owners that if we have a victory, right? If we don't have to give the refund, if we don't have to do something or do the reshoot or whatever, right? If we don't have to do that, we've won. But a lot of times it actually means we've lost, because it means that customer is going to go away with that experience, and they're going to tell other people about that experience. And so what we may look at as something that will save us a few $100s today might cost us tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars tomorrow, all because we didn't put the customer first. We didn't love the customer enough. We didn't be considerate enough to be willing to sacrifice for the customer. So if you're willing to put it out there, to lay it out there, to give extra, to go the extra mile for the customer, even when you're tired and when you're frustrated and you think it shouldn't be that way, if you're willing to say to that customer, we're going to help you and we're going to make this right, it's going to pay off. And this is a lesson as I watched all this unfold and this huge conversation ensue on this forum, and now I'm here having this conversation. Now what Tepui did is a story of what not to do in marketing. And so there's this bigger message here. And it actually makes me think about the interactions I have with customers. I screw up sometimes. Sometimes we don't get the email, or we neglect the email because we miss it, or we don't give the customer the expectations for whatever reason, usually because of a miscommunication. My job as a business owner is to do whatever I can to make that right. If there's any possible way I can make that right, that has any sort of reasonability, even if it costs me something, then I should try and make that right, and you should try and make that right, and the tent maker should try and make that right. Because if we can connect with the customer, if we walk away letting the customer believe, letting the customer not just believe, but letting the customer know that they won. Let the customer win. When you let the customer win, who's really winning is you. That's just a quick story I thought I'd tell. And yeah, Les, hey, you're welcome to send me a message about the tent, and I might fix it myself and kind of do some re-engineering. I might sell it. We'll see what happens. But I think it's a sad outcome, because I wanted to believe in the company. I wanted them to follow through. I wanted the product to be good. I wanted to love the product. And I also wanted to love the company behind the product, because I love it when a company takes care of things. I'm okay paying extra for a company that takes care of things. I love quality. When you let the customer win, you win too. You guys have a good weekend. Talk soon.